Hello, everyone. Here we are. Well, HART is a small charity that works with local partners in several countries around the world. We're distinctive in that we support people suffering from conflict and persecution in places often where others can't reach. We seek to bring to light hidden suffering, to help build capacity, local capacity, to tackle adversity, and we combine aid with advocacy to bring lasting change. Each month, our communications team has a particular focus on one of the countries where we have partners and work, and this month it is Syria. And I'm really delighted to be joined now today by Pierre Le Corf. He's a humanitarian who has spent several years living and working in Aleppo through the worst days of the conflict there. And he runs his own charity, We Are Superheroes. So, Pierre, it's great to have you with us here today. We're going to do a few short interviews. And the first question to ask is, what is the humanitarian work that you've been doing, and what have people been through, and what are the main needs that you've encountered in Syria during these times?
It's a long story. It's a very long story. It has been nearly 6 years now. And here in Aleppo, we passed by a little bit everything, because the bombings, the terrorism, the anger, the situation which was becoming very, very unstable day after day. I don't know how to describe it, because every time I try to talk about what happened and about what's happening, it's like it's overflowing me inside. I'm very positive about the current situation, about whatever happened, because there's always beautiful and light even in darkness. But yeah, here in Aleppo, we really, really had to face a lot of things. It's hard to describe, and I never know where to start, because it's so many lives, it's so many memories, life, death. All I can say, to try to talk very naturally about what happened, is that people who are living here in Aleppo had to face life and death at the same level day after day, because as much death was hard, life was so. We were bombed every day. 80% of the city was besieged. It was hard to know if you're gonna make the next day. It was hard to know if you're gonna be able to make it. And the people around you sometimes were just not making it. It's really hard to bring all of that back. But the city is getting better. We have been liberated like few months ago. We have been liberated in 2017, and recently, a few months ago, we used to receive like hundreds of bombs every day, hundreds of mortars, and the city was closing itself. So everything was closed. Nobody really knew about what happened in Aleppo. Nobody really knew about what was happening. Nobody really knew who was the people who were here, what was their life, what were they passing through, trying, dreaming about, living, university, life, work. Nobody knew about. And this is what have been the hardest part, is that still until now, Syria is a little bit closed. We don't really know what's happening. We don't really know the people who are living here. And this is where it's hard to tell a story, because if you knew the people who live here, if you knew the Syrians, if you knew all these families that I worked with, if you knew all these kids, if you know all of them, it will be not useless for me to tell you this story, but you will understand it better. You would understand it immediately. But for now, I'm talking about something which is invisible for you. I'm talking about people are surviving, living, trying to survive day after day, but you still don't know how they look like, what is their life, what is their names. So Aleppo has been a little bit forgotten. Syria has been forgotten. There are many people who fight for Syria, but it's still a big fight.
What's the work that you've been doing, and the things that you've been working on to try and provide a little bit of relief?
I have my association, but I like to describe this work more as just somebody trying to help, just as a person, as Pierre. Basically, I've been trying to do everything I could. Every single action I fought from a night to another, from a night to a day, or a day to a night, because I saw it was useful. First of all, the first step was to try to teach people who are in the front lines how to react if they get injured by the snipers, if they got shrapnels in the body, how to be able to save time and to save blood, and to save blood and to save time. I used to be a professional rescuer, so I tried to put everything I knew on this purpose, and to try to rescue people, to try to take people when it was necessary out of the streets during the bombing, and to try to also try to make them saving a bit of time and blood. I open projects for kids in the streets. I open projects for kids in general, for psychological support, for personal development, for education, for agriculture. It's really, really mixed about everything and anything you can imagine. But it's just that from a day to another, you see something and you know you can make a difference, and you can try, just at least try. This is what is, what I'm trying to do. I'm not pretending to be an organization and to have projects or whatever, but what I can tell you is that I really, really try. I really, really try my best, and that's good enough for the moment, but it's not always easy. Now I'm trying especially to restart a project for mental health. So to try to create something here inside Syria, which might be able to let people and give them the possibility to talk, to let it go out, to train people already have a medical cursus of paramedical cursus, to be able to understand how to communicate with people, how to listen, because it's a bit hard here in the country. People doesn't dare to talk too much about their life because everything is a bit secret about your life. You don't want people to know, and nobody gets used, to share his life with somebody else. But right now, it's a big part. It's a big part to try to help people to feel better and to try to redevelop themselves and to deal with their demons and to let blow some steam from inside. This is something that which doesn't cost anything, actually costs lots of time and energy, but this is what I'm trying right now. I had other project, but with the situation of coronavirus, everything has been tackled down, and we took it like a big wave in the face right now. It's heavy. It's definitely heavy.
Given all that you've been through in Aleppo and everything that everybody's been through, and you're on the ground there with the local people, and you've been through it with them, what do you find that you've been living the situation, and now things have got, in terms of the war, things have got a little bit easier. But what do people say about what are their real hopes and from the heart, But read deep down, what do people say? What do they want? What are their real hopes now?
If I have to answer you, if it's better or worse, actually, what most of the people think today is that now the war started. The bombs, terrorists and everything, it was the war because we know that, and we got used of it. We got used of the bomb, we got used of the fear, we got used of all of that, so it became like nearly normal. Most of the people are saying that now the war is starting. There's something, I remember I told it to you like years ago when I saw you. It was maybe in 2016 or 15, I don't remember, in Aleppo. Yeah. And I think I told you that at that moment, but most of my students, most of the youth I was working with, they were not scared from the death. They were not scared really from the war. Mm-hmm. They were scared actually to get injured or to lose somebody they love, but they were not too much scared. Why? Because somehow they was hoping that they can have an exit door. And if a bomb arrived, it happened and you die and it's gone and it's finished. No more fear, no more whatever. But the fear that people had at that moment was to leave the people they love, or to see people they love dying or getting injured, or themselves getting disabled, But they were fine with the war somehow inside, because the war became sort of comfort zone, a real comfort zone. It's strange to say that, but in the reality on the ground, the war became a comfort zone. Now the situation is worse. Why? Because as I told you before people were condemned to die. Now they are condemned to live with a situation that they can't handle anymore. The fact is, before the war, if we have now to forget about the bombs, about the terrorists or whatever, now we have to talk about the economical situation here in Syria. Before the war, the Syrian pound costed for $1 45 Syrian pounds. Now it costs around, in the black market, around 2,100 or 2,300. So it's basically like if you go to buy bread one day and you pay £1, okay, for your bread, and tomorrow you go back to buy a bread, and now you need to buy bread for £80. So it's basically very hard for people to handle. The government is helping the people by compensating all the prices and everything, which is very necessary. But the reality is the country is closed on himself. People doesn't have money anymore because they have been facing 9 years of war. Even those who had savings, now they don't have. Even those who used to sell a reclass or sell a share or sell a house to finish the month or to finish the year, now they don't have anymore, or they can't because they will live in the streets. So people are basically drained to zero. And the economy of the individual here is becoming hard because if the dollar now worth 2,300, you multiply also by 5, by 10, the price of everything. So it's like everything is multiplied by 1,000 and people still have the same salaries. So the country have been closed on himself because of the sanctions. The country have been closed on himself because of the terrorists. The country have been closed on himself because the international ingerence in the country. The country have been closed on himself with the coronavirus right now. The country is just suffocating, is basically suffocating, and people are suffocating. They work from day and night, but still at the end of the day, it's not enough. Now, worse than to take money from people, to don't have enough money, people doesn't have enough oxygen, they don't have enough hope. They get tired because this situation right now, the sanctions which are against the country are not against the government, are not against the country, it's against the people. Sanctions is what we can call, as I said it recently, as we can call like 500 years ago, a besieging. You were besieging a castle, not to starve the king, but to starve the 1,000 people inside who will get rid of the king because they're tired enough. They can love him as much as they want. They can love their castle as much as they want, but when the people start to become like that, they will do everything they can for their family, for themselves. They will get tired. And this is the new face of the war. This is a besieging. This is a besieging against the population of Syria, against every single individual living here in the country.
Thank you. I'm going to end this section here because I want to just carry on in the next section, just to a little go a bit more into that whole issue of sanctions. But thank you very much, Pierre, for that introduction, and we look forward to hearing a bit more. Thank you.
Welcome.
So here we are with Pierre again, and we've talked a little bit about the terrible situation in Syria, and for much of the country, the war hasn't ended, but it's a lot more peaceful in many parts of the country where the government has taken back. Although the war is the fighting is going on in parts of the country, but the economic situation now is desperate for the whole country. We finished off the last little section by entering into the issue of sanctions. Pierre, can you expand on that a little bit? How in this country, for example, in Britain and the Western countries, they say the sanctions is against the Syrian government. It doesn't affect medical supplies, it doesn't affect food, it doesn't affect humanitarian aid, it's only against the governments, blah, blah, blah. And the people aren't affected. In fact, the British government even says sanctions help Syrians. Now, you're in Aleppo, you've lived in Syria for 6 years. Tell us about what is the situation really? How is sanctions affecting the people you're with in Aleppo, and what's happening there now? What's the reality you're experiencing?
You know, there is something that not everybody knows, is that the sanctions didn't just appear right now. The sanctions against Syria appeared in the 70s. In the 70s, they were renewed in 2011 from the start of the war, and they have been renewed continuously during the war here in Syria. Recently, as you said, now the government, as in UK, are calling death sanctions, pretending that it's here to protect the people. Actually, America have been doing the same, because they call the new law, their prolongation of their sanctions, called the CISAR Act, Civilian Protection Act. Civilian Protection Act. For anybody who lives here, for anybody who lives these sanctions, for anybody who lives here as a family, as somebody who's trying to keep moving on in his life, this is disgusting. This is disgusting because it has nothing at all with protecting the population. This is a basic demagogy. This is a basic lie. This is a basic lie. The problem is that nobody can know. Nobody can know that, except if you hear, except if you see. Not even just to hear. I wish I can just cue from the screen and take you here inside, and just to come to see the families, to just sit with them, share coffee for those who still have coffee, and just to talk and to listen. We pretend that it is against the Syrian government, it is against the president, Bashar al-Assad, it's against the regime, it's against whoever you want to call it. It's against the population. It's against the population. You know, here you can ask people who are individual under sanctions. They will tell you, we lose few millions. You know, there are business people or whatever. They work in the government, or they work in the industry, and they will tell you, we lose few millions here or here, and we lose opportunities, but we don't pay it. People pay it. It's not against us. It's to stop the entire economy. You know, right now, with the current situation, we don't have access to medical supplies. We don't have access to importation of any kind of goods in the country. Everything has been closed. It's a black hole. It is a black hole. And this is a way to destroy a country, to kill its people, to destroy your hope. Because this is what people are lacking the most right now, because they don't understand what's happening. They thought that, khalas, we will finish with the bombs. Now, something else is starting, but worse even than before. And people can't handle it. They can't handle it. They can't. And I'm saying it. People are desperate. People are inside their country. They are with their government. They are with their president. They are with their country. They are with their land. They are protecting and doing everything they can to keep going on. But day after day, if you work day and night, still at the end of the day, it's not enough. You have nowhere to go, nowhere to escape. You have nothing to do, just to clean your mind, to take your kids, just to travel 50 kilometers away, to go in the mountains, just to see trees. There is nothing that people can do anymore. Everything is too expensive. Everything is out of possibility for people. Life is out of possibility. And this is where we are stuck. We are stuck in this current situation because of these sanctions. We are stuck in this situation because of the individual choice that every single person took against this country. Whoever today is sitting in the parliament, whoever is sitting in the government, whoever had the power to vote against, for, or whatever the sanction, is responsible for every single life which is lost. Every single person which is sick today, who has a cancer, who is even sick from the coronavirus and can't treat himself because we don't have access to what is needed. People doesn't have access to food. You know, during the war, people were just having the minimum of the food. They were having chicken once a month. Now they don't. Now people just cook heads of chicken, feet of chicken with rice. And even feet of chicken and heads of chickens are expensive for people who doesn't have a lot, because not everybody can know these families. You know, you can have the face of Syria where you see people living, going in coffees or whatever, but the majority of the population is suffocating. And this is these people which are invisible. These are our ghosts. And these people are worth fighting for. They are families. They just are people. They're people just trying to keep moving on in their life and to keep survive for them and for their families. Just.
It's beyond imagining. Beyond imagining. So in terms of the daily life, I mean, what do you see on the streets? I mean, in terms of supplies, in terms of people, able to, I mean, you just say people can't afford what is available, but what is available?
Let's say that basically whatever you want is on the market, but you can't afford it. And somehow the supplies are here. These vegetables, these food. The government is funding and financing everything which is needed in terms of bread, in terms of wheat, in terms of everything. So people can keep buying things which are really the basic necessities. But everything, if you want to buy a kilo of, let's say, a kilo of peach, it costs 3,000 Syrian pounds. Consider that today the salary of a worker is around 50,000. So let's say it's like you buy basically a kilo of peach like for 50 pounds if you have to consider your salary at 1,000 pounds. So if you want to buy a kilo of peach for 50 pounds when you earn 1,000 pounds, how can you make the month when you still have to pay your rent and everything which comes around just for a kilo of peach? So, you know, there is many organizations. There are many people who are talking about virus, corona, and helping, half helping, pretending to help or helping. There's many kind of situation. It's a country at war, and humanitarian field is something which is kind of very tricky. And this is where people get stuck because they need real help. They need real help right now. They need people to fight for them. They don't want to just get a box with food, like to take 5 pictures and then buy it, it's finished, it's over. People here, they need real help. And whatever the government is doing to try to help the people, it will never be enough. It's a country which has been facing 9 years of war and more than 70 countries is against Syria. How do you want to be able to handle the country as it is with the current situation between the sanctions and the coronavirus? It's hard to say, but this is what we need right now. This is what we need. We need people who really want to help. Yeah. People want to put hands.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. What the British government says. We've given more money to Syria than in any other cause, billions of pounds. And what's your answer to that? Where is that money going?
I never saw it.
No.
Basically, we never saw it. So if it went through organization in the government, but I know where most of the money from the British government or American or French government goes. It goes only in one side of the country, which is the side which is actually held and besieged and held hostage by armed groups that I personally call terrorists, because they are considered, every single of the group which is based in Idlib, they are recorded in the British government as terrorist organization. So explain me, how can they be freedom fighters or whatever here and they can be considered a terrorist organization in Britain? You can't have like this kind of double mathematics. The money is going in one side. Why? Because it's a political strategy. If there is help here, basically, honestly, I never saw any kind of help from the British government here, because when a government wants to help a country, the first thing they do is they stamp everything. They stamp on the name of the British government, on the name of the government of America, on the name of the French people. We never saw one box. We never saw one box or anything coming here. Never. It went only in one side. And actually, most of this money is financing directly the terrorists. Directly. Some people will say, oh, he's with government. He's saying that. No, let the time talk. I am telling you, most of the money which is going in the side of Idlib right now is used by terrorists. Most of the food which is arriving in the side of the terrorists is owned by the terrorists and sold by the terrorists. Sold. It doesn't go to people. You know, it doesn't go to people. Here in Aleppo, we had it. We had this millions of boxes coming in the other side. But you know, they were stuck under keys and guard with machine guns. And they were sold to people. They were given to terrorists first. They were given to family of terrorists. They were given to people who know family of terrorists. And then the simple people, and most of them, they had to buy it. You know, you could buy bread, like a piece of bread. Like, if I have to give you an idea, just meat. Meat, for example, during the Battle of Aleppo, it was 80,000, 1 kilo of meat, 80,000, which it's the equivalent of $160 at that period, which equivalent is if you were a Syrian, if you were a British guy living here and paying from your own money with the salary you have, it's like you would buy like £2,000 a kilo of meat, £2,000. People didn't have choice. People were selling what they have. People were giving favors. And you can't imagine what is the reality in the situation behind all this advertising, this particular advertising. The money is not going to people. I'm telling you, it's not going. Some is going, but most of it is not.
Yeah. Yes, and of course a lot of that funding as well goes to refugees outside Syria, but nothing to areas inside government-held areas of Syria. That just doesn't happen. No, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to pause there, and then we're going to ask one final question: is what your message to Western people is. But we'll just pause there and then carry on for the next session. But thank you very much indeed.
Welcome.
So Pierre, here we are. We've been talking about the devastating situation in Syria, and we talked a little bit about the sanctions and the way those are affecting lives in a horrendous way in Syria. Beyond our imagination, we can't imagine actually what has happened, and the fact that what we say funding people and the Syrians is not actually reaching most Syrians inside Syria. Well, you're there in Aleppo. You've lived through the war in Aleppo. You're living there with the people in Aleppo. You're living there under the sanctions. What's your message to the Western people? And you know, we don't really hear the reality inside most of Syria. We hear very limited material on the media. Most people aren't aware of the reality inside Syria. What would be your message to people? And then what would be your message to governments about their policies?
If I have to give a message to whoever has the power and not the power to be able to make a difference here, or just who is trying to understand what's happening, or just trying to figure out, to understand, to learn from the situation, is that, you know, it's hard to give a concrete image to people about what's happening without people being here. Yeah. It's hard, if I have to deliver this message to whoever is watching it, that I can just share by my words and by just my simple image here to share to you what's happening and what is the life of the people, what are they living, because even some Syrians here doesn't even know what's really happening in their country here, inside the country, because the people who are suffering the most, they are invisible. What I can say, however, is I really encourage every single person, doesn't need to believe in Syria, you don't need to believe in the country or whatever, but who believe in people, who believe in humanity, who believe in the fact that things need to be right. We can be as much utopists and believe it's the war, we can make it right. It's impossible probably, but I do believe that it's better to light the candle than to curse the darkness. So this is something actually that I believe truly inside of myself. I know many people feel totally, and whoever might listen to that will feel powerless. And this is something I wanted to post recently, because I feel powerless for the people feeling powerless, because they want to help, they want to do, but they are stuck behind their screen. They can't do much. They can send a bit of money, they can send nice words, but they feel at the end of the day that they didn't contribute as they should. They want to come here, but it's impossible. So I would like people just to try to keep growing hope, whatever happened here in the country, to keep growing hope for Syria and for the people inside Syria. To don't forget every single person who is living here. And I hope that you will have the occasion to listen to their voice, to listen to their testimonies, to see their faces. I hope that you can see who are the people who are living here. And I hope you can just remember that people in Syria, they are not Syrians. They are people. Okay? There is lots of propaganda against the country, because it's always have been like that. Since human is human, since man is man, it always have been the same way. With new technology or old ones, it always have been the same way. So I think that nobody today is really fooled by what's happening. But somehow it's hard to see through. So just whatever people believe, and I'm not saying that I am that I'm carrying all the truth about these conflicts. I have a vision of somebody who is living here, living with people suffering. Every single person who lives here has his own truth. Every single person who has been living through the war has his own truth. But I'm telling you through my eyes what we are living, what we lived. Without pretension, I'm just telling you people are suffering. And without having the pretension to take the voice from people, I'm telling you that because people can't appear in this video and tell you that. Because there's people, you will not see them in this kind of technology with a computer sharing their message. It doesn't happen for these people. They don't have enough money to make their life, and they don't care about politics. They don't care about the situation. They don't care about anything. They care about making their life day after day. So you will not hear about these people. First, because they have something else to do and they don't believe in that. And second of all, because they are erased and because we are closed from outside. So all I can say, I really hope that every single person who can listen about what's happening can just make his own research. Don't believe whatever you will hear. Don't believe whatever one will say. Don't believe what I will say, but just search, just look around and listen to what people can write, whatever from side or whatever, but try to be critical in the way you can follow this war. Nothing is all black, nothing is all white. But the reality is that if you want to be able to understand the truth, you need to search about these people. You need to search about what's happening. You need to listen to people who are inside and just to stay just critical about what you hear. Right now, here, we have no voice. Whatever we will say will be very undermined, very, very undermined. The time will change, but right now, everything is making people suffocating because they are believing that people gave up on them. They are believing that whoever lives outside or inside gave up on them. This is where it's hard. This is where it's hard. Right now, we're trying to make ways. I'm trying projects to try to give voice to people, to try to let them talk. I'm trying to, but it's still hard because it's like, you know, you carry something like a window, but this window is heavy because it's hard. But so this is my message to people first. Please, just don't give up. Just keep an eye open on what's happening. Don't think this is Syria. Just think it's like people. If you see an old woman here, she's not different than your grandmother, than your own mother. To governments, as everything has been tried, and as I'm trying from my side, and we have been trying together for the past month to try to work through the parliaments, and even in France, actually, they agreed to connect some ideas in the parliament about that, but everything has been stopped with the coronavirus. And actually, it's a quite a good thing for them because everything is stuck now. So we are stuck, and they control everything. But the point is, all I will say is, I will not give message to government because to give a message to government itself is meaningless. I will give message to people because whoever is a deputy, whoever is a president, whoever is a minister, whoever is an ambassador, whoever is whatever is first a person. A person. There's no such thing as government. There are people who just hold responsibilities and who have powers. So I'm asking if people have this kind of power to make a difference, to, of course, follow the agenda of their own country, because we are not dreaming, of course. Even if you hear the voice of somebody crying and suffering from the sanctions, your own country has an agenda. Everything has an agenda. Maybe you have your own agenda because you want to fit with the current agenda. But I'm just asking to every single person who eventually have a power just to make a balance in what's happening and to really protect the people, The war against the government, the war against whoever you want to call him, is a war, a political war, but this is a war against people. This is a war against humanity. This is a crime against humanity. I was working with the United Nations a few weeks ago because United Nations is actually trying to prosecute every single country which is participating in the sanctions because they are against the international law, because you are killing people. Right now, coronavirus, people are dying from what? Because of the sanctions. People who have cancer, people who have genetic disease, they die. I have parents of friends I work with in hospitals when I go to visit kids or whatever, and half of them died. Because today, if you have a cancer, if you have a liver cancer, for example, Now, if you want to buy one dose and you need 2 doses per month, it costs 800,000 Syrian pounds. 800,000 Syrian pounds. It's like I'm telling you, in Britain, you need an injection which costs you 30,000 pounds, and you need 2 a month. How do you do? Since you can't travel outside, it's forbidden. You're Syrian, so it's forbidden. And you don't have money. You can sell whatever you have, but you will pass maybe 1 injection if you're already lucky enough. And then people just try to win the time they have left and to die as the best way they can. But this is a reality. We don't see these people because also here and outside, we try to erase people outside, and here we don't communicate. It has been the war. The government doesn't know how to be able to communicate from inside to outside because it's an old mindset. But the reality that these people, they exist here. And even if the government is helping as much as he can't alone. We'll say these Russians, Iran, yes, it's true, but it's not still not enough because everything is still under sanctions. We want to receive gas during the winter. We don't have because the boats are stopped. We don't receive. And you know what? Babies die. Babies die just because they don't have enough to be warm. When they're already refugees and living in little room in 12 meters square without bathroom, and they live at 7 or 8 inside. You know, it's like a situation from cause to effects. And this is the fault of every single person who is supporting anything against people in this country. So I want people to feel responsible. You want people to be like that? This is your choice. This is your own conscience. But if you really want to help people in Syria, now it's time to take responsibilities. If people die or suffer, it's partially part of the fault of those who take the decisions. And they need to hold that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's a really powerful message you have there. Pierre, thank you for sharing what you have done in these few brief moments, and really appreciate it. I commend people watching. You can look up Pierre online, and you can see his website, We Are Superheroes, for some of the remarkable work that he does. HART as well, we partner with the EPDC, the Syrian Patriarchal Development Committee of the Syrian Orthodox, work in Malula. Let's keep Syria in our prayers and seek to think and act for the Syrian people, and a little bit more find out what's really going on. We're with you, Pierre. Thank you very much for all you've shared. Thank you. Okay.